Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Tuesday show. Today we are returning to the WCW Galoobs. So, after watching last week's episode, after I filmed and posted, of course, I realized that yes, I showed the carded figures. Yes, I had shown off the loose figures, but what I didn't do was show off the dual card sets. So in series 1, Galoob did have obviously your single packs, but they also had Steiner Brothers on tag team set on a tag team card. They had I believe Sting and Lex Luger on the tag team set. They had Ric Flair and Arn Anderson on tag team set. They had Doom on a tag team set, etc. So since I failed to pull those cards off the shelf for Series 1, I'm not going to do that in this video. I could have gone back, showed you the cards for Series 1 tag team sets, and then showed you the tag team sets for Series 2. But since I missed it last week, I'm just going to scratch that. Meaning, next week, when I come back for Series 3, actually, I don't have the figures yet. I'm still waiting on them. Hopefully, I will have the unreleased Series 3 prototypes on hand that I can show you guys, and that could be its own video. If I don't have them by next Tuesday show, I am going to skip to the 14-inch figures that Galoob released, as well as those carded figures. So I'm just kind of looking, and I think that's pretty much it. So there is a wrestling ring, obviously from Galoob. Every wrestling toy line has their own, wrestling ring and whatnot. There's some championship belts, kitty belts, whatever. I don't have that stuff, so I think that would be better for us because, like I said, the 14-inch figures, I mean, there's just 4 of them. It's not going to take long to review those, maybe 20 minutes, if that. So adding the tag team sets for Series 1 and 2, that'll be fine. Now, I thought about potentially adding the Just Toys Bendums, LJN. They had their Bendums right after Hasbro ended in 94. Here comes Just Toys with their Bendums in 95 taking over before Jakks Pacific, of course, eventually replaced them in 96. But even though Jakks Pacific had the main contract for WWF, Just Toys Bendums were still producing their figures from 95 to 2001. So, but the Bendums are the official replacement for the Hasbros, right? Well, in the early 90s, Just Toys did the exact same thing for WCW Galoob. Same characters, same look, but it's not Galoob. It's Just Toys, right? So for that purpose, I probably will not include those figures. If you guys are interested, I can come back and do that review again. I think I did it maybe a year or two ago. I don't know, but so that's what's to expect next week or the following week, depending on whether or not I have Series 3 on hand. So let's get into today's figures. Now, obviously, none of these I didn't even know about. I didn't have any of these as a kid, of course. Series 2, 1991 release, was a UK exclusive. Now, if you were on deployment, maybe your father, mother, whatever was in the Air Force. Maybe they were in like Germany, UK, etc. Maybe they would have come across these particular figures at some point. They're probably selling in Spain. Again, throughout Europe, I guess. But they were known as the UK exclusive, whereas Series 1 was a US release, right? So the only way you're basically going to get these figures if someone came from overseas and brought them with them, with them when they returned. I love Series 2. I think Series 2 is absolutely amazing. Now, there are a lot of repaints, so you can have your preference. Do you like Series 1 better? Do you like Series 2 better? There are many figures in here that, like this first one we're going to look at, the fighting pose is absolutely horrific. At the same time, I think this is probably one of the top 5, top 10 best Galoob figures. And I am talking about El Gigante, himself. Of course, I didn't really know of El Gigante, and I know I'm not pronouncing the Spanish word correctly, but that's how I'm going to say it. Now, you guys know I've told this story many a time, so it's not like it's news. Obviously, Ted Turner, owner of WCW, also owner of the Atlanta Hawks. You had this massive, what was he, 7'7" basketball player from Argentina. Is it Argentina? I've told the story so many times, and now it's kind of messing me up. I'm gonna say Argentina, and he didn't have any success in the NBA. Let's put it that way. You're Ted Turner. You've signed this youngin to a basketball contract. It failed, but look at that size. He is so massive. If I'm Ted Turner, I don't want to let someone like that walk. So, how do we make use out of this guy if I can't use him in one sport, the NBA? Bring him to another sport as a professional wrestler. So, yep, it does say on here he is from Argentina, South America. So, I was correct. And just like Series 1, we are going to go in order of how the wrestlers are shown in the back. Now, some of these cards are different, so some of the profile pictures do change, but I do try to keep them in order as much as possible to this look, right? So, 7'7", when you're hovering around 8 darn feet tall, you've got that presence in the ring. But he's not a professional wrestler. Later on, we know him from, what was it, 92 Rumble, I believe, and 93 Rumble, something like that. He come in and absolutely destroyed The Undertaker. I think we actually had cable, and I think we ordered the pay per view, and I think we actually watched that live when it happened. Giant Gonzalez to me was one of the most intimidating characters you'd ever see in wrestling. Just the size of him, and I know a lot of people when you talk about Giant Gonzalez, they never like that whole what I call bear suit, but you're supposed to have like this big giant beast, right? Think of him as like a Sasquatch. The sort of like painted on shirt with like the built on painted abs type of deal. Maybe he wasn't physically fit like that, but you wanted to show off that that type of muscle tone and whatnot, that type of definition. I love the Giant Gonzalez in WWF. Okay, I didn't know about El Gigante in WCW. The first time I ever became familiar with him, Harvey Whippleman bringing him into WWF during that Royal Rumble. So the figure itself, again with size, is incredible. Play pose, it's terrible. You know that I am a play pose first collector, play pose first fan, and that's the one thing that I will covet above all else. And then we'll start looking at the color scheme and design, their outfit, etc. This is an incredible look. I love this. This is awesome. In one of his wrestling matches, he actually came out with his outfit backwards. I'm like, yeah, it happens. But this figure gets a lot of slack only because of the play pose. But if you're a fan and you grew up with Sting, Series 1, Series 2, whatever, and you got this, I mean, that's not really any better than this. If you were, born in the 70s, early 80s, and you grew up with LJNs, I mean, think about like a Haku with the hands like so, right? I mean, his arms are in a little bit closer than the Haku. So Haku is a horrible figure. Waist down, it's amazing. But you take away this play pose, this is incredible. At one point, a carded Giant Gonzalez was one of the most coveted and probably most valuable parts of the collection. Now, prices have dipped significantly, like I've been talking about. LJN has gone down in price. Hasbro's gone down in price. Remco's gone down in price. Galoob has gone down in price. So you could probably get a carded Giant Gonzalez El Gigante figure for maybe $250. Again, I think that's a significant drop in price. A loose figure, I mean, if you buy from an overseas seller, someone from the UK, and it goes up on auction, you could probably win one of these guys for anywhere between $10 to $20, maybe. Let me rephrase that: £10 to £20. So let's say between $15 to $25. But if you're only buying one figure, you're paying $40 shipping. So I say buy as many from that seller as possible if he's got an auction going right. So, but in the US, you'd probably end up paying $50, $75, even as much as $100, especially if it's in really good shape for an El Gigante. Play pose is the only reason I don't rate him the highest in the world, but overall look, design, height, El Gigante, he's got to be a top 10 best Galoob. So if you, I just counted the figures before this video. I've been saying 31 figures, but it's actually just 30. 13 figures in Series 1, uh, 17 more figures in Series 2. But the figures don't equal the character. For example, there are 2 Stings in Series 1, right? So you got 12 characters, 13 figures, etc. Another point, I wasn't counting any of the variants. Butch Reed has like 3 different variants, right? Arn Anderson has 2 variants, one with bald spot, one without bald spot. So I wasn't counting those variants. If you include those, yeah, you're up to 34, 35 figures. But moving on. Next one up, Dustin Rhodes, the natural himself. And when I give my countdown, I say Sid Vicious, best Galoob, bar none. Not even a question. Barry Windham, I put at number 2 because his play pose is incredible. 3, I probably give to Butch Reed because I think Butch Reed has an amazing play pose. And if you were a kid, you'd have a lot of fun with those 3 figures. I would probably put Dustin Rhodes as the overall 4th greatest figure from the Galoob line. Amazing play pose, great look, name recognition. Of course, I knew him as Goldust. That's how I was more familiar with him, more so than the early 90s natural Dustin Rhodes in WCW. But I mean, he's gone through some things. Different. What was the other guy? Stardust. That was played by Cody, I think, and he played one of those characters. I think Stardust was created so that Goldust and Stardust could kind of tag team together. So, but the look of Goldust obviously changed over the years, and it's so awkward seeing, like a man of his stature kind of like play this gay guy, Goldust, like Adrian Adonis for LJN, kind of same thing, right? He's a straight male in this intimidating business where you're supposed to be all manly and whatnot, and now you're having to play a gay guy. And I'm pretty sure for a lot of these folks, it was uncomfortable for them. It was out of their norm. But what is wrestling? 50% sport, 50% acting. And I think they did amazing work, amazing jobs. So, but when you got Marlena by your side as Goldust, how can you like, that's why as a kid, I always like looked at him like, Goldust, you're obsessed with Razor Ramon. You got this beauty on your arm. What? But it was just a lot of fun, man. I love the Goldust character. I thought that was incredible. I would have loved this when I was young. Never had it. Obviously, not until here it is. We became adult collectors. So the thing about this figure, loose or carded, doesn't matter. He's an expensive one, right? You know what's just as expensive as a Dustin Rhodes itself? The championship belt. Dude, what are you talking about? The WCW belts, you could probably get a bundle of 5 or 6 of them for 20 or 30 bucks on auction. Yes, you can. You can get 5, let's say, WCW belts for around 20, 30 bucks. It's possible. What you're not going to get is a Dustin Rhodes WCW belt. Well, what's the difference? Look at the waist of a Dustin Rhodes compared to any of the other Galoobs. Obviously, you're going to need a much larger belt. You just can't put any random WCW belt on Dustin Rhodes. It won't fit. You're going to have to basically wrap around his arm, call it a day. So, I believe this one has 9 notches. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. So, you got to look for the 9-notch WCW belt. The 9-notch belt is about $100 just by itself. If you're lucky and you could find a 9-notch belt for, $40, $50, buy it now, best offer or something like that, jump on it. That thing is valuable. Even with the reduction of prices for Galoobs, that belt is still valuable to most collectors because they want the ability to wrap it around their waist. I think the rest of these are just 6 notches. Or is it 5 notches? 3. It looks like 5 notches, but 5 or 6. I'm going to say 5. The way it's kind of covered, it looks like 5. But when I look at Dustin Rhodes, who do I always compare him to? Jimmy Garvin, yes. Rick Steiner, of course. Ric Flair, absolutely. Trying to look here, see if there's anyone I'm missing, and no, that looks like it. So you basically got 4 of these same figures, right? Between those 4 characters. They're kind of hunched over, arms spread apart, hands down low, legs separated. They all roughly have the same play pose, right? Like I said, knees bent, legs spread apart, crouched over, hands separated down low. So they're all very similar pieces. Dustin Rhodes loose is about a $75 to $125 figure. So I would normally say if you're in the $100 range for Dustin Rhodes, especially great paint, great condition, that's about average. This is one of those figures that do not lose much value. Dustin Rhodes on card. Dustin Rhodes on card a couple years ago. I saw an eBay seller, probably a couple of them, that had Dustin Rhodes listed for about $3,000. Now, luckily, I was able to pick up a Dustin Rhodes from one of the overseas sellers I normally buy from, and I don't remember what I paid. I think I won for like $900. And considering that other sellers had it for like in the thousands, that was incredible. And I may have paid more. I may have paid like 11, 30. I don't remember. I'm gonna say $900. And I don't know if it was from the same seller but I did end up buying another one of these later on card, and I got it for like 400, 450, $500. Now, fortunately for me, I was able to resell that one and basically recoup the money or a good chunk of what I paid on the first one. So, are they $3,000 figures? Not really, not anymore. Dustin Rhodes, still one of the most expensive, but you could probably get a Dustin Rhodes anywhere between $500 to $1,500 on card. But it's perfect. It's one of the best figures. Any fan collector, if you're trying to save up, this is something that you'd want to go for. Absolutely. Now, coming up next from the Freebirds is Michael Hayes. Now, there are a lot of figures that you can compare this to. I kind of look at Tom Zank and I'm like, what? Tom Zank is sort of a Terry Funk LJN, definitely a Roddy Piper type LJN. You could say something like maybe Outback Jack or Jim Duggan, because why? I mean, they have the hands out, arms kind of so, and that's basically what you're getting from Michael Hayes, right? And same deal. I was describing last week. A lot of poses, because these are stationary figures, a lot of the poses that Galoob used for their 4-inch figures are very reminiscent to what LJN came out with in the 80s. So I think a lot of fans who grew up with LJN, maybe they're not the biggest Hasbro fans in the world because maybe the Hasbros were just too much, of cartoon characters to them. But they will love the little statues that Galoobs are. They're basically LJNs broken down in half size. Me, I'm not a big Bendy's guy. Even though I love the collection, I have almost all of them carded, and I got all of the first series when they had like the remakes, different card back. I got a few of those, but I'm probably not going to go for all of them because it makes no sense, right? And of course, the loose collection has always been complete. But Michael Hayes, among the Galoobs, top 7, top 8 best Galoob figure. He's definitely won the top 10. That there's no doubt about it. So Michael Hayes. Love the look of the facial paint, right? And boots and pants of the figure. Absolutely incredible. Last week when we looked at Sting, and we were looking at his salmon pants, we were looking at his blue pants. In the top of the picture, he had black pants like so. Sting did have a third release in Series 2 with black pants, but when I looked at the photo, it kind of reminded me more of this because of the overall scheme of the pants, right? Low color design. So I'm kind of looking at this, and it's kind of funny because it doesn't look like this is a professionally drawn, figure. It looks like somebody painted this. But even the carded figure, man, that's just how it is. You kind of look at this, it looks like somebody put white out down the side of the pants, but even carded, that's the figure. So pretty interesting all around. Again, one of my absolute favorites. Great fighting pose, great clothesline. You can still do that one little one arm toss over and whatnot. So a very serviceable and playable figure. Hmm. Next up, we got tag team partner Jimmy Garvin. As we go through the back, keeping them in order as such. So pretty much any Series 2 on card, it's going to be expensive. You're not usually looking at the $100 range. Even with the drop in price, let's say El Gigante, I think I've seen a couple of his figures even on card. Bubbles kind of jacked, but even those were selling for like 150. So it is possible to get them for under $200. But generally, when it comes to the Series 2 UK figures, you know that the cost is going to be way up there. Jimmy Garvin, another top 7, top 8 best Galoob figure. Top 10, 100%. So, what was it? Probably around. This was very early in my channel. So I would say episode 34, 35. Because way back when, I used to title all of my videos Watty's channel, episode 1. And then I give a description of the video, episode 49, description of the video, etc. So they were all, listed by episode number up until like episode 423 or something like that. And then after a while of doing it for like that for like 2 years, I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna do that anymore because if you're watching on your phone, you're only gonna see so much of the title, right? And all you're gonna see is Watty's channel episode number so and so, but you're not gonna see what the actual episode's about, not unless you actually click on it and open up the description or open up the title. So I did away with the whole listing of the episode numbers. And I think I'm at like what, 800 videos or something close to it now. So, oh yeah, I've been busy these last couple of years, last year and a half or so. But Jimmy Garvin, perfect figure. Um, I would like figures to be standing straight up instead of slouched over like so. I mean, I know I slouch over a lot, but that's because I'm kind of get in as close to the TV as possible or to the computer. But it's a fantastic play pose. You know, his arms, they're not as low as, let's say, Dustin Rhodes or Ric Flair. So, his hands are up a little bit higher. This the way it has his body is beautiful to be body slam, which I love. And he does like a beautiful power bomb and whatnot. So, this is a spectacular figure. Now, when I talk about episode 34, episode 35, it was basically a breakdown 1 through 30, 1 through 31, whatever I had, of all of the Galoobs. Ranging from the number 30, 31, all the way down to 0, or down to 1, down to 0. And I don't remember where I had these guys, but like, let's say Sid Vicious, US Black was number 1. I'd have Sid Vicious UK number 2, Barry Windham US number 3, Barry Windham UK number 4, etc. So if you did away with that breakdown and just made them just simply one figure, one piece, guys like the Freebirds would be in the top 10. Otherwise, what's coming up next? Butch Reed, maybe Brian Pillman Blue, Brian Pillman Bengals, etc. So these guys that I'm saying are top 10, they might be pushed back to 12, 15, 17, something like that. But kind of give you a little explanation of where I was with these guys. So we already looked at Michael Hayes from the AWA Rumpkos, several videos ago back in Series 3. We also looked at Jimmy Garvin back in Series 3. So here is another set of characters that jump from AWA Rumpkos to the WCW Galoobs. But Remco had already ended, right? So if they were part of the LJN line, let's say around Series 5, Series 6, yeah, they could have gone from Remco to LJN to Galoob and had 3 straight series. That's kind of like what kind of messed Ric Flair up, because Remco already ended, right? And he was never part of LJN. So you can't say he went from Remco to Galoob to Hasbro, because they weren't concurrent. Rick Martel, that was concurrent. All right, so carded figures, those guys together, if you keep, I seen sellers list those 2 figures together, and they could probably go for around $300, $350 for, let's say between 300 and 450 for a set of Freebirds on card. Loose figures, $50, $60, maybe on a low end. You could probably pay up to 80 to 100, but I think $60 to $65 around that range for the tag team set loose would be a solid number. This figure right here, this is one of those unicorns I didn't think I'd ever be able to pick up. Just like Dustin Rhodes a couple years back, when I was seeing this figure listed on eBay, buyers or sellers were asking for like $3,500, $4,000 for this figure. I'm like, at that price, I will never in a million years be able to pick him up. But eventually, I did pick up Matt Osborne's Big Josh character. So obviously, Matt Osborne, he went from the Rat Pack in the AWA with Teddy DiBiase, Jim Duggan, going to WCW as this lumberjack, Big Josh, moving on to WWF as Doink the Clown. So Matt Osborne / Matt Bourne, however you want to describe him. I mean, he's gotten some amazing figures, and Big Josh is an awesome piece. The only downside with this particular figure because he comes with this axe handle, right? The play pose really isn't there. It's kind of like a Terry Funk. Like when you look at Terry Funk, well, I think the right hand up is up, and like so, but his arm is further back. Like I was not a fan of the LJN Terry Funk for the longest time. Now, once I finally got the cattle prod accessory and put it in his hand, I'm like, you know what? The arm positioning with his hand way back made sense. Looks so much better. Suddenly, a Terry Funk LJN, which I thought was like a number 50, maybe even number 60 best figure, all of a sudden is like in the top 30, top 35 of the best LJNs. So it just shows that accessory really can make that difference. Big Josh, obviously, I don't have a loose accessory. You could probably buy a custom, but I want the original, right? So Big Josh by himself, I don't know what they're going for today, but I know when I first started collecting in 2021, and probably for like another year or two. I mean, I haven't been really paying attention to the market lately, but this was easily $200 every single time. You could not win any auction. I don't care if that auction started at 99 cents. I don't care if that auction started at $100. This guy would normally sell for $200 or more on auction. So that to me was the going price for Big Josh, 200 bucks. It's a great looking figure overall. And I actually had a custom of Big Josh from Krem's Closet, which if I could go back, I wouldn't buy it again because it's a clear custom, right? When you compare the two figures. So, and knowing that I went out and spent $200 to pick this guy up, and I probably spent another 200 later on to buy him again. I mean, I've resold it since with a bundle of other figures, but definitely one of the most valuable pieces. I would say an easy $200 piece. If you could find an original axe, $100, 125. I don't know. That's not exactly something that comes up on the market, right? So to actually put a price on it, it's crazy. But you're selling out 200 bucks for a figure. Do you want to spend another 150 on a accessory that could potentially break, falls off the shelf? There's $200 for you with that accessory. Play pose ain't all that great, but it's still a very aesthetic, pleasing figure. I don't think I'd put him in the top 10, but I would definitely say maybe top 12, top 15 potentially. I mean, it's still a serviceable piece. So, and Big Josh, I think MOC, if you could get this figure for $900 to $1,200, I think you made a great purchase. If you're in the $2,000 range, I don't know. This might go up at some point, but I know I wouldn't pay 2,000 plus dollars for Big Josh. And when I finally got this, again, I think I got him for way less than $1,000. And I'm pretty sure these figures came from like an overseas seller. Alley Good 10 that I've talked about many times in the past. I bought a lot of Hasbro's from him, MLC, a lot of Galoobs, loose or carded, whatever. So uh, this is definitely one of the highlight pieces of the collection. Definitely one of the most valuable. Next up, we have the third release of Sting. Once again, Series 1, you got salmon pants, pink pants, peach pants, whatever you want to call it. If you look it up, they call it salmon, so that's what I call it. You got the salmon pants version, and uh, you've got the blue pants variant. A lot of people they make the mistake of classifying the black pants as Series 1 and the pink pants as Series 2. That's not correct. Black was the UK release. Now, this is an issue as I'm looking at the back of this card. If you look at any of your UK releases, right? They show you new, the little red banner that says new up in the corner, showing all the new characters, where everyone else is just basically a repaint. So this is your basic Series 2 UK card backing. But look at Sting. So Sting has the same layout that a Series 1 carded figure has. So when people look at this, it's easy for them to say, "Oh, well, that's just a Series 1 figure." I'm like, but it's not. When you look at Blue or Salmon Pants Sting, they got the same look. We know all three figures were not released in Series 1. There's no question that Blue Trunks or Blue Pants Sting was a Series 1 figure. That's a no doubter. Everyone in the world agrees on that. But again, a lot of people they swap it incorrectly. Peach Series 2, and I'm like, no, it's not. So you do get Sting. Let's see, where's he at? He does come up with his third figure in the line. So, and I think I like the black the most, only because black to me it just well, I love blue. Blue's my favorite color, followed by red, followed by black. But among the three Stings, even if this wasn't UK, this would still be just my favorite piece. I'll just like it better. So, and again, this whole Sting, I'm not a fan. That's not a good design. It's not a very playable figure. So, I mean, as a kid, I would have played the heck out of it because it's Sting, and we all love Sting. But he wasn't someone I had as a kid, unfortunately. All right. Next up, we've got Brian Pillman. Now, as I said, Brian Pillman. See on here, you go from the Freebirds to Brian Pillman, but where's the Sting, right? I could have put Sting down here, but that is the other Sting. That's the fourth release of Sting. So I don't know why I keep Sting in that area. There must be another card that I have that shows Sting right after the Freebirds because that's the only reason why I would display it in that order. Even though I love Brian Pillman as a kid, again I didn't watch him in WCW, but I knew about him because I had his Bengals figure. And so later on when he came to WWF, I'm like, okay, well this is nice. I have a reference, with the character to that action figure. And like I talked about last week, a lot of time you can become a huge fan of a character and never watch them a day in your life, but you love their action figure, and that's important. Same thing with someone like a Jimmy Snuka. Bruce Beefcake, I was a huge fan of when I was a kid, but like his Hasbro was terrible, his Series One, and it was one of those figures I talked about where as a kid I just didn't know how to play with it. It was just so awkward. So you try to make use out of it with the way best you can, but that could have really hurt my opinion of Bruce Beefcake because of that stupid Hasbro. And I love all the Hasbros. LJN, same thing. Even though I say, hey, this figure sucks or this one's 10 times better, I will always say that I love all the figures produced, regardless. And yeah, I'm going to have my preferences. This one sucks in comparison to this one, but Brian Pillman was one of my favorites. And his blue release, again, here's another crazy expensive figure. I mean, carded $500 maybe if you could find one nowadays. MOC, because where are you? Oh, here he is. Because this is Brian. I think this is a custom right here. I have multiple Brian Pillman, so why would I keep this? Whatever. Uh, maybe this was my original. I don't remember. Yeah, this has to be an original because I'm looking at the paint on this figure, and That's not customized, but the knee pads are. So, but Brian Pillman loose is like a $200 figure. Yeah, you can go 225, 250 for this, just for a loose one. So you got to imagine that a card figure has to be at least twice the price. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this go for $500. Would it go for 1,000? I don't think so. I think that's really pushing the budget for someone to reasonably suspect that a Brian Pillman in blue would go for that much. But I like the baby blue color scheme more than the Bengal color scheme, and I like the knee pads, obviously, with the little cat Bengal on the knee pads. So because this one is not really easy to see, when you look at the knee pads, right, there are a couple of variants. You got both knee pads filled in, and I think there's another variant where only one knee pad is filled in. Now, is that a legitimate variant, or is that something where paint fell off over time? Way that people describe it, I think it's a legitimate variant. Now, would I go for that Series 2 blue Brian Pillman with one knee pad if I ever came across it? Yeah, I'd bid on it if it was on auction. I don't think I would win because I wouldn't want to pay $200 for these figures anymore. But it wouldn't be for resale, right? It would be for my personal collection. So that means more because you're keeping it for yourself and you're not selling it trying to make a profit. So I might, but again, it's not anything that's I'm eagerly searching for or anything like that. Brian Pillman, again, top 10 best Galoob figure, one of my favorites. One of the dark horses that a lot of people are having trouble finding is Barry Windham in blue trunks. Same thing with Brian Pillman. These aren't Brian Pillman, Barry Windham. They're not your Big Josh. They're not your Dustin Rhodes. So they're not figures that are going to sell in the thousands or extremely high hundreds, $800, $900, $950 type of deal. But they are going to sell for a pretty hefty price. Usually somewhere between $250 to $500. And same thing when it comes to your Barry Windham. A loose Barry Windham could potentially be a $200 figure. You might get it for 150. You might even get it for $100 if you're lucky. But your average Barry Windham is going to go, blue trunks is going to go for around $200. Now, you got Barry Windham, all blue, right? If you are a collector, because I get a lot of Galoobs repainted, customized, whatnot as well. So when I sell those customs, I don't customize myself. Obviously, I pay someone to customize my figure for me. Maybe I got a Barry Windham that's black trunks all destroyed, but I want to sell it to someone who's going to be able to benefit and not have to pay $200 plus for a Barry Windham that's pretty beat up. So someone can come to my eBay page, make me an offer for like 40 or $50 and get a perfect replica. So sometimes with certain figures, whether it's Hasbro, LJN, etc., sometimes you got to go the custom route. With the LJN's Series 6, before I got any of the original figures, where did all the Series 6 figures come from? They came from Ram Treasures because I bought their custom figures. Series 2, Short Hair Andre, your Bam Bam Bigelow. I bought it from Ram Treasures. Why? Because, Bam Bam Bigelow, massive black paint on his face and knuckles and stuff, would go for like $80 on auction every time. I'm like, let me pay $75 through Ram Treasures and get a mint one. But I am who I am, right? I'm a collector, I'm a fan, and I want originality. So of course, over time, I eventually picked up all original figures. But as I'm saying, you gotta go the custom route more times than not. And I had a bunch of blue trunks. So a lot of buyers, they send me offers, $30, $35. Maybe I get $40 for it. But It's nice that I'm able to turn a little bit of profit, but like I said, you go and you buy a black trunks Barry Windham, maybe you get it for $10, let's say. Shipping, taxes, you're probably at $20. I send it to my buddy Rob. He'll paint stuff for me. Maybe he charges me $10, so that's $30, right? So you think about it this way: you sell a figure for like $40, eBay selling fees. How much are you getting out of that? 32, $33. It's like all that work for a $2 profit, $3 profit. So, but it's nice to have these amazing pieces out there, right? I used to think that I liked the black Barry Windham better, but I'm thinking I enjoy the blue trunks a little bit better. So there are a couple things. If you are a fan and you're not sure if it's going to be a custom or not, is he wearing? Is his wristbands blue? Because sometimes you'll see blue trunks, but you'll see white wristbands, the same as the Series One black trunks, right? So that's one thing to point out. The second thing, does he have the black stripes coming down the side of the trunks? Those black stripes are a giveaway as well. You may not be able to see it completely. You probably won't be able to see it, but I think you're able to see it from the loose figure. But he does have those, obviously, the black stripes. So if you want to go the custom route, it's not going to hurt your collection any, right? You could always buy an original later on. But if anybody's wondering, sorry, I do not have any more of those customs available. But if I ever do, I will. I'm pretty sure I'll let somebody know. Or check out my eBay, Bakari. I mean, I would list it, but I'm not intending on picking up any more of those. So uh, I pretty much got rid of all mine that I had. For whatever reason, this is, I wouldn't say a unicorn, but this is one of those figures that not many people have as part of their collection. And it's a Green Trunks Lex Luger. Given, as a kid, we had Blue Trunks Lex Luger from Series 1. Played with it, right? Um, you get characters in a little double double DDT, which is awesome. You got to throw these overhand pretend punches and stuff. Looks great for a statue, but as a toy, as a playable wrestling action figure, it's one of the itching. One of the worst figures out there. Series 1 Blue Trunks is like $5 to $10, right? So when you get an authentic Green Trunks Lex Luger, $30 to potentially $75 for a loose one, especially if the paint is pristine. A lot of my figures, I try not to buy from, US sellers if it's a UK figure. A lot of my UKs, especially my Series 2 figures, I've won on auction from UK sellers. They're in the UK, right? A Lex Luger in green trunks means nothing to a UK based buyer. Just like Lex Luger in blue trunks doesn't mean anything to a US based buyer. So, more times than not, a lot of international buyers are going to be turned off by the shipping prices, 30, 40, $50 shipping on an item. So, you could potentially win a Lex Luger on auction from a UK seller and probably get him for around £5 or £10 potentially. That's like what, $15, £10, like $15, something like that. This is like a $60 figure in the US. That's why you try to win those auctions. You find those UK based sellers. You try to win as many auctions you can, have them bundle up together, and the shipping is okay. Now, if you're asking if I win 2 items, 5 items, 10 items, 20, whatever, from Canada, for example, it's considered international, right? Mexico, it's considered international. You go to Japan, China, Germany, Spain, wherever, international by, it's all international, right? If they buy from you in the US, it's international. So if a buyer in Canada is buying from a seller in the US, since it's considered international, you can't you can't bundle orders. So what I normally do is if I win like 20 auctions, 10 auctions, 5 auctions, whatever, I will have that seller cancel all of the orders, take all of my figures, put them into one single listing. And, if let's say everything that I won on auction was $100 or £100, they would put it up as a buy it now for £100, and I would be able to buy it that way because you're basically paying one shipping price, right? You buy 10 items, you can't bundle the items together. You're basically paying $40 for each individual one. And I'm like, no, I'm not, nobody's doing that, right? So you got to kind of, work the system a little bit. And it's not cheating. I mean, you're still buying the item. You're just not paying multiple times on shipping. So yeah, this is a really good one. It's got a little bit of paint loss in the hair, but I mean, it's fine. That is Lex Luger. I'll move these figures around. Next up, Ric Flair. It's funny that when they complain about Ric Flair, it's like, oh yeah, everybody remembers Ric Flair and red trunks and Black Thunderbolt or whatever. Because the Series One Blue Ric Flair to me is so common. I will gravitate towards the red trunks Ric Flair, and the fact that he had that lightning ball. I mean, that little thunder, whatever. I mean, doesn't hurt anything. To me, it's just extra graphics. Yeah, you want your figures to look like what somebody actually wore in ring. I got it, but I prefer the red Ric Flair over the blue. So Ric Flair carded. I don't know how much can you get for Ric Flair carded. Maybe $125, perhaps 150. I mean, it's not going to be crazy expensive. It's not going to be a Brian Pillman or Barry Windham. It's definitely not going to be up there with Dustin Rhodes and maybe El Gigante, where he's going to be $250, $400, or Big Josh or anything like that. So you could probably get a carded Ric Flair for a couple $100. Loose figure. Normally you see Arn Anderson and Ric Flair sell together, and buying it from a UK seller, it might be like £5, $8, $9. But on the US, the first one I ever bought I bought from a US seller, and I paid $40 on it, or maybe it was $42, and that was like before taxes and everything. So paying $50 essentially for a Ric Flair, and I think about that nowadays because since then, you know how many red Ric Flairs I have owned, and did I ever in any of the acquisitions did I ever pay anywhere remotely close to $40 for the figure? No. Buy from the UK, you win it for a few pounds. £3 here, maybe £5 there. Maybe you get one for like 11.80 or something, but some rand price, I don't know. It's another common piece. This particular Ric Flair is not crazy valuable, not crazy rare. So, but could you still buy one from the U.S. seller for around $30 to $50? Absolutely. Go the custom route if you have to. Get yourself a blue Ric Flair for like $5, $10. If you can't paint it yourself, do like what I do. Send it to friends that you know and trust who can paint it and make it look immaculate, just like an original. And my buddy, he charged me $10. So $10 purchase price, $10 for the paint job. Your $20 compared to the 40 plus shipping and tax, $50 you paid for the first time go. So, but it's a must have nonetheless. And That is the little lightning bolt that you see on his trunks. It's a solid figure nonetheless, right? All right. So, Doom. Series 1, you had Ron Simmons, you had Butch Reed. You had two characters, each getting their own single card. They also came out in a dual tag team card, right? Doom came back in Series 2, but not completely. They did not give you a Butch Reed in Series 2. But what they did release was another Ron Simmons. Now, when Random Treasures started doing their LJN Galoob 2-ups, the first amount of figures, several figures I got were US based. Because, that to me was the easiest, most common. Then they came out with an Arn Anderson and they painted him black and gray, which I'm like, well, that's not Galoob. So, but I went with the stock photo that they had and I got me an Arn Anderson black and gray. And I'm like, yeah, it looks nice, but it's not Galoob. So it ruins the figure for me. So from that point forward, since I already kind of screwed up the color choice with my Arn Anderson, I've been changing up other things. Like when I got my Lex Luger Galoob 2-up, I got him in green trunks instead of blue. When I got the Ron Simmons, I didn't get him in, dark blue pants like Series 1. I got him in the much brighter blue pants with the white stripe. Why? Because that white stripe gives you extra detail on the figure. That's all it was. A simple change. But if you think about Ron Simmons, I think of this as like a $10 figure, and even that to me is pushing it. I think Ron Simmons is like a $3 to $5 figure at best, and that's only if you're someone who really has to collect every single figure. I had Ron Simmons. I'd pick him up only because of that nostalgia of having him as a kid, but the figure was horrendous. Was throughout my entire life, I would have probably said that Ron Simmons Galoob was probably the worst action figure ever created. You go out and you get yourself a Ron Simmons UK exclusive. You're in the $40 to $60 range just for a loose figure. You want him carded? You're paying up for a carded figure. Again, the prices might have come down lately, but you probably should look somewhere like the $400 to $600 range for a carded Ron Simmons. Now, if it's up to like 750 to 1,000, watch it if you have to. If it's on auction, hope that it doesn't go that high. But I don't value it that high myself. But I needed Ron Simmons UK for the collection, right? I'm trying to complete the entire collection, so yeah, you sometimes you have to pay up, but I really don't like the hard rubber that Galoob has. But like when you look at Ram Treasures Galoob 2-up with the soft rubber and arm being a little bit movable and whatnot, I don't know, that meant more to me as LJN style than obviously Galoob style, right? So ever since I got that figure from Ram Treasures, I haven't been as disappointed in the Ron Simmons as much. But they also did that same thing to Macho Man. I'm like, why? Why would you do that, right? I've seen other sellers, other customizers, they kind of made the same thing. Putting up the Ron Simmons fighting pose with like a Texas Tornado, for example. So, but Ron Simmons in all white shoes, no Nike swoosh on these. So, dang, I don't know when it happened. Maybe 3 months ago, 4 months ago, 6 months. I don't think it was 6 months. I think that's pushing it. Let's just say several months ago because I don't remember when. Nathan over at Ohio Figures on eBay. I bought from him plenty, a million times over these last few years. And he's seen my Facebook post, almost complete with the Galoob's, MOC. And so he reached out to me, let me know that he had three particular figures I was looking for available. And what really helped is, yes, they were pretty darn pricey. One figure in particular was mad expensive, but this is a man that I've worked with in the past. Obviously, I have trust established, and he let me pay him in installments. I'm like, look, dude, what kind of money are you looking for? I want this dollar amount. Can you do this? We kind of go back and forth. So we came up to a price we were both comfortable with. The fact that he let me, I just like, hey, hold on to the figures. Let me give you a down payment every week or two. When I get paid, I will send you an additional amount. And within about a month or so, what was it, a month or 6 weeks? I'm gonna say a month. I was able to pay off the three figures that I had bought from him, and three more figures added to the collection. I was able to check off the list, which is incredible. And the first one is Rick Steiner. Rick Steiner is actually not only one of my favorite characters, one of my favorite, the Steiner Bros in general, being one of my favorite tag teams of all time. Probably in the top, if not top three, they're definitely in the top five best, my favorite tag teams ever. Now, the bluish, purple, gray Rick Steiner from Series 1 is fine. It's a figure I had as a kid, loved it. Awesome play pose. But the lime green Rick Steiner, it just pops. So if you can find a Rick Steiner, like, if the card's in good condition, bubbles clear, it's not coming off the card, there's no cracks or dents. I could see a Rick Steiner Galoob Series 2 UK going for like $500 to $700 maybe, potentially. Now, if the card has some issues, if there's some dents or breaks in the bubble, or if maybe the hanging tab is messed up, or if there's like some spider veins or something, yeah, that's going to eliminate some of the price. But you're probably still in like the 200 to 350 range, I would estimate. So there is a lot of value to a Rick Steiner Galoob action figure. So just like Sting and Ron Simmons, Arn Anderson, Ric Flair, Sid Vicious, Lex Luger, Brian Pillman, Barry Windham, Steiner Brothers, they're all basically Series 1 figures with a repaint. Think of Series 1 loose as $10 figures. So once you get to Series 2, that $10 figure turns into what, a $30 to $40 figure? Maybe if you're lucky, you get both Steiners UK for $60 to $75 if you're lucky. But recommendation, buy it from UK sellers. It's going to save you money. It's going to save you a lot of money. Now, given if I had these figures, and I do have some extras, I actually have a bunch right here, extra figures, UK, whatnot. In fact, you know what? This is a UK Bryant Pillman, but I think this is, I take it back. I think this one was a custom. I think this is one that Rob Jackson did. And I think, I'm going to put this down real quick. Yeah, you see the paint on the original compared to the paint of the custom. So that's how you know that this would be a custom figure. But when you look at the original's knee pads, like what's that all about, right? I think somebody tried to touch that up, but this is an original, no doubt. But if you look at the custom that Rob did, it is, perfect comparison. So this second figure, this I just kind of keep off to the side here. So these two rings I have on this table, and just like some of my favorite Hasbro's and Galoob figures, they're all spares, and they're not anything I'm planning on selling, but maybe one day, who knows? I mean, I only need one for my original collection, right? I don't need all these duplicates, but where did I put you? There you are. And of course, you always gotta look for the tattoo of Rick Steiner. Make sure that that's intact. So you can't have one Steiner without the other. And Rick Steiner joined Scott Steiner among the 2 out of 3 figures that I bought from Nathan. And again, the yellow Scott Steiner Series 1 is a figure that I had as a kid. I talked about in my last video. As a kid, I absolutely loved the Rick Steiner, or well, I love the Rick Steiner too, but I love the Scott Steiner figure too. Like, I got so much play from the yellow Scott Steiner. Then I looked at the figure as an adult, and I'm like, you know what? This is pretty terrible. I'm not prepared to say it's the worst or among the worst, action figures ever, but I look at it nowadays, I'm like, this isn't that good. Well, arm down, you kind of do like a DDT or like a one hand toss over or something like so, right? And with some of these figures, you pretty much can do a pretty good body slam, right? So I mean, maybe it's not as bad. Maybe I will get better appreciation, from these videos and talking about it. Because how do I go from loving it as a kid to sort of hating it as an adult, right? When most of my opinions from childhood are still reflected in my adult life. Trying to get this belt more onto his back. Belt's not cooperating with me. But if it comes to the blue and pink or the yellow and black, I mean, I'll go with this because, again, it's different, it's unique. I like the colors better. They just pop more to me. Again, same as Rick Steiner, probably looking at $30 to $40 for a loose Series 2. But a lot of the time, if you are lucky, you can win both Steiners together because sellers, they will generally put tag teams uh one bundle, one listing. So you could potentially get them for like $60 together and save yourself some money. Yeah, I can't close this anymore. So that's the Scott Steiner figure. Now, this was the third piece that I picked up among the Steiner brothers. I also got this one, and this to me, this is a unicorn. This is 100% the true essence of the word or words Holy Grail. And you think Dustin Rhodes and you think Big Josh. We used to see these figures sell for like $3,500, $4,000, right? This figure is about the same. You see it on eBay, that's basically what they're selling for. It's insane. Luckily, well, if you call it luck, I don't know. I mean, this one, it looks solid. I think maybe the bubble might have had some damage or something, maybe some indentation. And I didn't have to pay nearly as much for this as, other sellers would probably ask for this particular figure. But it was still freaking crazy expensive, like massively expensive. More money than I wanted to pay, but when you get a Holy Grail item, something like this that actually will, maintain its value as the years progress, you can't pass up on it. So the third issue of Lex Luger, blue Lex, green Lex, just a repaint, right? Don't like the figure at all. But Lex Luger in entrance robe, Holy Grail, 100%. And I still think Dustin Rhodes and Big Josh are Holy Grails as well. I mean, they're figures that you need for the collection, but you do not see Lex Luger in robe come up for sale like ever. So I was so grateful. And I look at this picture, right, and this always got me. Whether you're looking at the back of the card up top or the big one down here, why is it every single figure in the line, it's a stock photo or of the actual wrestler, but when they made this version of Lex Luger, they gave him like this little cartoony, toyetic look in his bio photograph. And I'm like, why? Why didn't they just go back and reuse the same one that they used right here? Or heck, they didn't even have to add a second photo. They didn't have to add that. You could just kept Lex Luger right there and just basically say, hey, that's for your two different Lexes. I don't know. Or maybe they wanted it to be different because they already had a Lex Luger photo. I don't know. But I would love to talk to David Galoob or someone that had anything to do with production and distribution and kind of find out like why that was. So just like Big Josh's handle is one of the most valuable accessories from any toy line out there, Lex Luger with his chain. That chain accessory, again, it just does not exist on the open market. Maybe someone out there has one that they're replicating for a custom, but in all honesty, if I were to open up this package, take the chain out, I could probably send it to, one of the guys, like maybe Rob Jackson, someone like that. Uh, Stan Trezo, whatever his name is. I forget how to pronounce his last name, but these guys that do 3D printing and customization, right? Hey, I got this accessory. Can you mass produce this for me? And I'll pay you for those. Even a custom chain, people could know 100%. Hey, that's a custom chain. It'll be screaming at you in the listing title in the description. Custom chain. Because people want that chain for their loose figure, custom would go for $100 plus. I could see it happening. But what happens when you open up the package? It loses its value, right? And I don't want to lose 50% or more of the value of this figure just because I opened up a stupid package. And I didn't want to do that. So, but that right there, that that's a business in of itself. Just selling Lex Luger Galoob chains. You guys know that I absolutely love the Ultimate Warrior Series 6 LJN, right? And essentially that's what Lex Luger is. He is another Ultimate Warrior figure. And so same exact thing. He Lex Luger is like so, and this is your Ultimate Warrior, basically, right? Um, Not identical, but still very closely resembling your Michael Hayes figure. Close enough, right? Perfect body slams, one arm over, because Michael, his arm is, more like so instead of like so. Lex does get the bonus points for that, but it comes with an accessory, which I don't have for the loose figure, but awesome built on clothing, incredible fighting pose, overall solid look with the color scheme. I probably put Lex Luger at number 5. So Sid Vicious, Barry Windham, Ron Butch Reed at number 3, Dustin Rhodes at number 4, and Lex Luger robed at number 5. So those are easily, in my opinion, your best Galoob figures in order. Perfect playable figure. Like, why couldn't this have been made 3 different times as opposed to that King Kong Bundy look that they gave to Lex? So in the US, this is still an expensive figure, even loose. 80 bucks, 100, 120, 125. Yeah. It's a valuable piece. And yeah, of course, I got to have a second one because I don't know, man. I mean, I've had multiple Lex Luger's robed and I've sold a few, but like the figures I keep here, I'm not selling those. Somebody reaches out, hey, I'll give you $300 for that Lex Luger robe. I'm like, shoot, heck yeah. I mean, he's like $100 figure, right? So if somebody offers you 300, you don't turn that down. I'm not that insane, right? But I just wanted another one because I wanted him for that secondary collection. I've been seeing a lot of folks make like these, different wrestling match, videos, get the wrestling ring set up, and they don't have to do anything high profile, severe editing, just in the ring with their figures playing with the toy. I'm like, and those videos get like hundreds, like high hundreds, thousands of views, and I'm like, I have all the setup. Why don't I just actually? I thought about doing it one day actually, doing something like that, like maybe on a secondary channel, something like for like small kids to watch. Someone who's like 6 years old, 8 years old, or something. Um, 8 years old is pretty old, so maybe like yeah, but between like 4 and 6, something like that. But I mean, how many 4-year-olds do you know are watching YouTube? But I could have put out like my main YouTube channel, but I don't know. I was I embarrassed? I don't know. I guess for me, it's one thing to make a match, but to do commentary in the background at the same time, I think that would ruin me. I wouldn't be able to do that. So, all right. The last figure that I do have, actually, you know what I didn't do? I was skipping figures. I am going to pause. No, I'm not. I'm gonna leave it go. Just 1 second, guys. So, I was trying to keep these in order. Who was this? Ron Simmons. So it should have went Lex Luger green, Ric Flair red, Sid Vicious. Sid Vicious should have been the next one, and I completely skipped him. Your Sid Vicious in pink. Holy, this is a personal Holy Grail item for me. I mean, I don't know if you would necessarily classify this as a Holy Grail in general, but you don't see Sid Vicious in pink come up on auction or for sale when it's MOC. Never. And for an MOC Sid Vicious, this is probably a $500 figure or more. I don't remember what I paid for it. I don't know if I paid that much. No, I didn't. I bought it off Facebook, and I think I probably got it for around 200, 250, 300. I don't know. I don't remember. I'm gonna say 250. And guy on Facebook was selling it, and I'm like, heck yeah. And it's funny because not too long after I got this, I think one of the guys I buy from the UK, I think he was telling me he just sold one himself and he got like 125, 150 for it, for a carded one. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, even if I just bought this, I still would have bought that one too if I knew that. But here is the thing: Sid Vicious is a perfect figure. My entire life, this has been my favorite action figure ever. So, if I am ever going to pay up for any one particular figure, yes, Sid Vicious is going to be that one. If you say, well, this is $1,000 figure for a Ron Simmons, am I gonna pay $1,000 for a Ron Simmons? God no. Would I pay $1,000 for Sid Vicious? MOC? Probably not because I'm not crazy like that. But no. For guys out there that, have good incomes, they're making, $100,000 a year, 200, whatever. And, they can afford to pay, $1,000, $2,000 for a card figure. And it's not hurting them any because they're earning more than enough to survive on in life, right? Uh, it's unfair to say, hey, you're crazy for paying $1,000 for a toy. But now someone like me, I'm basically diving into, overseas money that I spent over a decade accumulating. And, well, sure, you see this collection. Now you know why I'm broke. But no, man, I absolutely needed that pink Sid Vicious. And one of my Holy Grail pieces, personal Holy Grails. And so grateful. I'm not going to say Sid Vicious Black is number one, Sid Vicious Pink is number two. I will classify US and UK versions in one. So I would just say Sid Vicious in general is your number one best Galoob figure. So Sid Vicious Galoob, UK. I think at one point, a couple years back, this guy was going for like $125 just for just for this. But today, I think you could probably win a Sid Vicious UK for I think $25 is a little bit small. But I could see him going for a good $40 to $50 as a buy it now, best offer being accepted type of deal. So it's not the most rare figure in the world, but it's definitely one of the most popular. All right, so Lex Luger, Ric Flair, Sid Vicious, Ron Simmons, the Steiner brothers. I don't have Arn Anderson on card. So it looks like Arn Anderson, MOC, for Series 2 is really the only one that I'm missing. And with Arn Anderson, that would complete the individual cards. Now, there are a couple of tag team cards in Series 2 that I need to complete the overall collection. But in Series 1, you had white and red trunks, Arn Anderson, one with bald spot and one with filled in hair. So in Series 2, they did away with the red and white and gave him a strictly all red trunks. So not the best figure in the world. It's salvageable. It's it's a serviceable figure, but not the best. I don't like the hands being all down like Ted Arcidi and Bam Bam Bigelow from LJN. I mean that really hurts the figure. With a better pose, this could have been a much better figure, especially with all of the awesome paint detail with the red and white and the boots and knee pads. So, but Arn Anderson, I would imagine. Well, loose Arn Anderson probably goes for like what $30 again, $40, unless you're buying from the UK, where you could get him for like $10, $15. But I would imagine that an MOC Series 2 Arn Anderson would probably go for, again, probably somewhere in the $400 to $600 range. It just does not come up for sale ever. Would I pay $400? After I paid off my house, I have a little bit of money left over. Now that's why I was able to do the pool and, fix some things around the house. But I would have to. It would go on the credit card, right? But I would have to because, like I said, that's the only one I need to complete the Series 2 individual collection. Oh, man, $400 for Arn Anderson, like that would I would hate doing that. I know I would have to, but I would hate it. Now, when you look at like the back of this card, right, and you still have all of the new UK guys, but look at how it ends here. When you look at the last figure, same thing. You got all of the new UK guys at the top. When you get to the bottom, they completely change the setup or the lineup of the guys in order. That's why when I was laying these out in order, I'm trying my best to keep them in order as much as possible based on how they are shown on the back of the card. But Lex Luger. So then Arn Anderson, Lex Luger. Last one is the fourth rendition of Sting. Is this a better Sting than the other three? Yes and no. First off, the overall color scheme and design of this thing is perfection. Absolutely incredible. But his pose doesn't get any better. So you're going from like this, right, to this. And that hurts this figure so much. Because a Sting with entrance gear is about $100 figure, just loose. So it's an expensive piece. You want to get him on card? I don't know, $500 to $1,000 or more. If someone said they were selling one for $1,500, I could be like, you know what, maybe. So if you're looking for this guy and you ever come across it, and you're kind of wondering, hey, what's the top dollar? Think of it somewhere in the $500 to $1,500 range. But I'd probably argue, let's say $500, and kind of work from there. See how close you can get to that price range. It's again, this is another one I kind of feel like it's going to keep its value over time. But if you're not looking for a carded figure, the loose one is a beauty. Now, I absolutely love the Sting with entrance gear. Now, Sting and Lex Luger, both with their entrance gear outfits. You can get these all day as Series One tag team sets, but these two guys in Series Two on tag team set, massive, massive, massive holy grail item. And what are you looking at price range? $1,500, 3,000, 5,000. It doesn't come up for sale. So how would you say? How would you even begin to imagine? To make an offer for something like that. But I would probably say if I ever came across it, I'm probably gonna be thinking $1,500, and if I could find one less than that, well, we can work something out, right? Kind of like what I did, so with some of these other sellers. Hey, you hold on to the figure, I'll pay you over time, whether it's the course of a week, 2 weeks, a month, and that way you don't have to worry about, you can still hold on to the figure and you can still get your payment. That way you don't worry about me screwing you over type deal, right? But I have to do it with someone that I've dealt with before, someone I trust. It can't be just some random person, off of Facebook, for example. That that would be smart, a smart move. Now, original San Francisco. A couple years later, when Galoob, obviously the line disbanded shortly after Series Two was released, and David Galoob and family came back with original San Francisco in 1994. They do have a Sting as part of their original San Francisco line, where the Sting is like, yay big, right? 7 inches, a little less than twice the size. So if you're on auction and you see this figure and it's like 2 days remaining and he's selling for like $7, because a lot of time I may not even be reading the description. I might be just be looking at the photos as I'm scrolling through the page. And, oh shoot, they got a Sting for a good price. Let me see if I can swipe in and pick him up, because by the time the auction ends, maybe he'll go for $50, $75, $90, and I'll be out. Then you open it up and then you see original San Francisco. It's like, ah, oh, dang. Because original San Francisco's thing is like, again, a $10 figure, not valuable, but the glue piece, incredible. So, like I said, next week I want to do the Series 3 unreleased prototypes. I'm still waiting on the figures to come in, so we'll see if I have them by then. If I do, we'll work on Series 3. If not, next week we will look at all of the tag teams that I have. Rick and Arn, Series 1 and Series 2, Doom, Series 1, Sting and Lex Luger, not robed, obviously, but I've got them for Series 1 and 2, I believe. No, maybe I got just one. I think I got total package. I have them for one, Series 1. And I think the Steiner Brothers is the other one I have. So I have 5 tag team sets over there. Yep, I lied. I have 6. I completely forgot about the Freebirds. Now, Freebirds on tag team set do come out with 2 sets. They come out with the tag team set on, a regular white card back, but they also come in a red box about yay big, and it comes with like this talking modulator. So, Freebirds in 2-pack, I have that one. I'll include the modulator as well. And we'll also take a look at the 4 14-inch figures that Galoob released. I don't have the ring. I don't have the championship belt. I'm not going to include the Just Toys figures because again, that's not Galoob. That's a different company. That's Just Toys. So that's not gonna. I'm not gonna add those. And I'll do that next week. Now, if I don't have the Series 3 figures by next week, I'll do that, and then I'll maybe have them by the following week, and I can do Series 3 then? Question mark. Uh, Otherwise, that will complete the WCW Galoobs, and that'll more than likely complete the Tuesday shows. Right now, the only other option is to move on to original San Francisco after the Galoobs are done, but pulling all those darn cards off the shelf and having everything fall over, that's so annoying. But I mean, I will do it for the viewers. I will do it for the review and for the Tuesday show to keep the Tuesday show going. But nobody said anything about wanting to see that review, so I'm okay ending the Tuesday shows with Galoob. I got the main toy lines out of the way: Hasbro, LJN, Remco, Galoob. So it doesn't mean that future reviews won't continue. It just means that this particular style of show every Tuesday is gonna end. So we will see what happens. About 1 or 2 more weeks worth of Tuesday shows, and we'll move on to the next round or stop completely. But that is it for now, guys. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. I will talk to everybody in the comments, and see you guys in the next video. All right, take care, everybody.